So before we start, I want to acknowledge a couple of people here. Um, Dr. David Spang, the Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs. He's also our Provost. The Associate Dean of STEM, Liz Price. We have a couple of staff from the Dean's Office. Faculty, so a couple of faculty, staff, and other staff from division. Also, we have Bernadette White. She is the Associate Dean of Liberal Arts. Tina West, Chair of the African American Cultural Committee. We have our guest. Tina will present, we'll introduce her later. And all our friends, like friends of STEM. Welcome. So my name is Edem Tetteh, Dean of the Division of Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. It's my honor and privilege to welcome you to this year's Engineering Week event. I want to give you a little bit of history of this week, but before that, I want to tell my staff and the STEM faculty and students happy birthday. So many people don't know, but the new division was born last year during the Engineering Week. So you guys are celebrating your first birthday. So happy birthday. So Engineering Week, called also E-Week, is funded by the National Society of Professional Engineers, NSPE, in 1951. This year, E-Week, which is pretty much this week, it starts February 19 to 25, is dedicated to ensuring a diverse and well-educated future engineer or engineering workforce by increasing understanding and interest in engineering and technology career. So that's pretty much worldwide. So it's celebrating everywhere. But at RCBC this year, we are celebrating this with our Black History Month. So the Black History Month pretty much is a celebration of all the achievement of Black people. People don't know that. People think when we talk about Black History Month, we are celebrating the struggle. Yes, we are. But mostly, this whole Black History Month was created so our achievement can be celebrated also. And this achievement is more important, even more important today because we need African American or Black in STEM. We need them more than anywhere else. So this is very important. So I want to encourage or ask the students who are here to go back and research one African American we are almost at the end of the month. But you have to research one African American who did something very spectacular in STEM. So there are so many, but learn about at least one of them that you can speak about. So without further delay, I would like to invite Dr. Spang, our provost, to the podium to give his remark. And following, Tina West will come here to introduce the speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tetteh. I'm honored to have been asked to speak to you this afternoon and give some words of welcome and also some words of encouragement to our students, especially those who have decided or are thinking about choosing a STEM academic career and a pathway leading to a degree at our institution and perhaps one of our partner institutions. Now, my remarks will be directed toward the students in the auditorium this afternoon, but for the administrators, the educators, and the staff, this will emphasize why we all do what it is we do. As Dr. Tetteh mentioned, we're celebrating Black History Month. This week is National Engineers Week, and the Thursday of this week is Girl Day, in case some of you didn't know that. It's an excellent time to highlight some of the varying and diverse opportunities and requirements, both technical and non-technical, that are badly needed in our world today. Our society looks to you, our students, to help solve its most pressing challenges. Now, I speak to you this afternoon as Senior Vice President and Provost of this fine institution, and also as an engineer. My background and experience in materials science and engineering in industry has enabled me to design, build, and operate pilot plant facilities, commercial manufacturing facilities, to develop novel computer control and automation systems, and to probe the interactions of atoms within materials used for electronic applications. All exciting stuff. My message to you is very simple. The STEM community needs you. It needs your creativity, it needs your point of view, and it needs your outlook. The STEM community needs you. In general, for those who are inclined to pursue a STEM career, what lies ahead? We know that a thorough and rigorous academic journey will begin, and you will discover and learn the principles and techniques established by those who came before you, including the great scientists and engineers. And then you will have the exciting opportunity to apply and extend those principles to the most pressing needs and challenges of our world today. This is a world, unlike the past, that relies heavily on readily available information, relies on the most powerful computational devices that ever existed as tools, relies on instantaneous communications, and most importantly, relies on the diverse teams of highly educated and talented individuals. The STEM community needs you. We know as a society we have work to do to make gains in increasing the number of underrepresented students choosing careers in high-paying STEM fields, as well as the number of professionals working in critical STEM segments. We also know, and history has shown us, that the richness and power associated with diverse groups enables the unlocking of the most innovative and novel solutions in times of stability, as well as in times of crisis. The STEM community needs you. And you are all well positioned to benefit from the opportunities available to you here at RCBC. Access and affordability are pillars of RCBC's strategy. You have access today to an associate's degree education of the very highest quality, along with education professionals who are dedicated to your success. Additionally, baccalaureate degree pathways and beyond are laid out before you through RCBC's partnerships. In summary, it's an exciting time for those of you who are choosing a STEM pathway. My advice to you is to take full advantage of the many opportunities available and all those who are, again, dedicated to your success, and remain focused on your goal. You will succeed. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Ms. Tina West. Ms. West is a member of our African American Cultural Committee, and she will introduce our excellent speaker for this afternoon. Thanks again.
Thank you, Dr. Spang. Good afternoon, everyone. So, as you've heard from both Dr. Spang and Dr. Tetteh, science, technology, engineering, and math is very critical. We marvel and embrace our students who look forward to pursuing STEM degrees as well as STEM careers. So please embrace it, and we encourage you guys to continue to pursue STEM technology. I'm going to introduce and talk a little bit about our speaker today. And before I do, I want you to know that it has been a very rewarding month chairing all of our events that we have here today, this month actually. We actually will show Moonlight tomorrow, 12:30. We will feature that movie showing here in the auditorium. We will also have our International Expo event that will be Thursday at 5:30 p.m. It is free. Please come on out. And we also have Thomas Beer. Due to the snowstorm, he is rescheduled to come out 12:30 p.m. on Thursday. Feel free to come out. Now, about Francine Cartwright. Francine Cartwright is a project manager at Rowan University School of Orthopedic Medicine. She currently manages the ORANJ Bowl, study a research panel of 5,688 adults aged 50 to 74 in New Jersey. The goal of the ORANJ Bowl panel is to understand how characteristics of people, neighborhoods, and environment promote successful aging. Ms. Cartwright has presented a various of scientific meetings while co-authoring more than 15 articles in gerontology, community, resilience, and successful aging. She has also been involved in numerous National Institutes of Health funded studies at Rowan University of Pennsylvania and UMDNJ. Ms. Cartwright graduated with highest honors and a degree in public health from Bluestein School of Planning and Public Policy at Rutgers University. She was awarded the Mellon Foundation Post-Bachelorette Research Assistantship to study demography at the University of Pennsylvania. In the community, Ms. Cartwright serves as the Woman in NAACP WIN Chair and Assistant Treasurer for New Jersey State Conference, NAACP, and the WIN Chair and Treasurer of the local Southern Burlington County branch. Ms. Cartwright resides in Morristown, parenting 2 high school students and a senior at Columbia University. Please help me give a warm welcome for Francine Wright.
Hello. I have a couple of groups that I'm talking to at the same time. But thank you so much for having me today. Thank you, Dr. Tetteh. Tina, thank you for welcoming me today. Can you hear me well? The Provost, thank you for having this event today. I will say this. You always hear people say it's an honor and a privilege to be invited to speak, and it's really, truly I am. I'm humbled. I am a resident of Burlington County, and I've seen this space grow and expand, so it's really nice to be here and speaking with you today. I will respect your time, and I won't take too much of your time, but I thank you that you've entrusted to me your time and your ear. I won't say that I'm the smartest person in the room. I know I'm not the smartest person in the room because first I accumulated a real unsurmountable debt in undergraduate, and the students here won't be doing that. So you've actually made a wise decision in coming here. I wasn't that wise. I don't think my duty today, I will say that as I was listening to Provost and Dr. Tetteh speak, I'm like, wait, you're taking wait, I was going to say that. But that's okay. My job today, I'm not sure, is to persuade or convince you to pursue a STEM education. I think many of you already understand the importance of it. I think my purpose today is to inspire, to uplift, to celebrate the week of engineering in hopes that you may leave here with a renewed passion in hopes of a successful future. Just to tell you a little bit, last Friday, I had the opportunity to speak at an elementary school. We were on behalf of the NAACP, and so it was an auditorium of youth, and I had to explain to them, a little bit about the NAACP. I presented to them, highlighting the contributions of young people, from Ruby Bridges, who integrated the school in New Orleans, Linda Brown, who Ruby Bridges was 6 years old, and so I had all the 6-year-olds raise their hand. And Linda Brown, she was the child who was associated with Brown versus the Board of Education. She was 8. We discussed the Little Rock Nine and the 4 college students who started that sit-in. And after the presentation, I was able to go into a classroom, and that's actually where I'm the most comfortable. So this right here is like, but that's okay. But I was able to go to the classroom and engage with some of the students. And so, they were asking me questions about, who did I know who was famous and were activists, and they were asking me about, what was my inspiration, and, I was getting all these tough questions, and then finally I asked them, I said, well, tell me, is there something about your community that you want to see changed and improved? The purpose of me in doing that is just I wanted to bud in them this spirit of activism, and that they had the power to change and improve their communities. So some of them said things like, I want there to be more programs for children at the rec. I had another one say they wanted their environments to look cleaner. And then we got to other students who said, well, I know of some bridges that need to be fixed. The bridges are falling apart and they need to be fixed. I want to be a part of that. I want to build bridges that are safe. Then another child said, I want to take the board he had, I was not familiar, and he said, I want to make it solar powered. I want to use that, the science, and I want to make it solar powered. And then someone else talked about cleaner air, and I thought it was kind of interesting that, and one of the things I pointed out to them is that, here we are talking about civil rights and activism, and it became evident to me that there were some of those children who their passion, their reason to change the world or improve the world was in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So I invite you, students, and maybe I'll inspire some administration, if you will, you're activists. Activism consists of efforts to improve or to promote direct social, political, economic, environmental reform with the desire to make improvements in society. Why was that important to me? Because that was what I was always interested in. I wanted to change the world. I never thought, I was not as smart as those 5th graders who thought you could do that with STEM, but you can. Here we are in the month of February, the month of Black History. I didn't know that this was Engineering Week everywhere, but Black History Month is observed in remembrance of the important accomplishments and people and events in history. From the event's initial phase, primary emphasis was placed on encouraging the coordinating teaching of the history of American Blacks in the nation's public schools. At the time of it was Negro History Week's launch, the historian Carter Woodson contended that the teaching of Black history was essential to ensure the physical and intellectual survival of the race within broader society. I find it interesting that the STEM, this STEM Celebrates Engineering Week is placed in Black History Month. And maybe we can extrapolate from that the teaching, studying, and practice in STEM is essential to ensure the physical and intellectual survival of the race within the broader society. So if you remember one thing from me today, remember the words. Now, we've all heard these words, and I was reminded of the words of Martin Luther King. And I'm speaking to the students, especially the students of color. He says, you don't have only the right to be free, but you have the duty to be free. So not only do you have a right, but you have the duty. So I admonish you, encourage you, remind you that not only it is your right for quality education and leading into a fruitful career in the sciences, science, technology, engineering, and math, but you have a duty to this calling. Just to switch gears a little bit, why is it important to celebrate STEM? Especially calling attention to the people of color in STEM. 6%, the National Science Foundation reports that African American girls comprise of 6% of the total US population, 14% of the women enrolled in four-year institution in STEM, and 10% of the graduate students in STEM. However, when you look at it further, they're less than 1% of the PhDs that are attained, and in managerial positions in science and engineering, it's less than 1%. So although they're going to school and maybe studying it, it's not translating into a career in managerial positions in science and engineering. So how did I end up here? Well, my story is kind of like, everybody knows the story about the boat and, the flood that's rising, right? So, someone, it's a flood happening and somebody comes around and says, hey, I can help you. And you're like, oh, no, I'm going to wait, somebody's going to come save me, or God's going to come save me. And then, it gets a little bit higher. So I never really thought about STEM as a career. It was my natural tendency. I was the kid, I loved math. I was the kid, when we used to drive down the street, I would look at addresses, and I would formulate different sorts of arithmetic kind of functions and make it count by one. It's hard to describe, but this is what I would do. So, but for some reason, it was never brought in me to actually decide to do any STEM as a career. I had great math teachers. They were all white males. I had one black male math and science teacher. So it just never seemed like it was for me. I went to college first as a business student because it was business, sometimes it was law, because that was what I was interested in, was social justice and changing the world. And never was it that you could do that in STEM. Just never made the connection. And I remember, but so I took Calculus 1 to get the easy A, and I took Calculus 2 as an elective. And then, for some reason, I decided to start playing around with certain classes in biology and stats, which was like my favorite. So I did so well in stats that I was asked to be a tutor. So this is how you know I was never supposed to be a business student. So I started with one or two students to tutor, and they would ask, could they bring their friend? I'm like, oh, sure. Now, I'm getting paid hourly, not by person. So instead of, it got so big that I had a classroom of students at one point, but I was getting paid like $20 an hour. If I were a business student, I would have made that each student meet with me individually. But of course, thinking that I wanted to change the world and be this big business person or maybe law, and that was the way I wanted to do it. This was not, this was just fun. Actually, it was. It was fun. So then I ended up leaving University of Michigan, and I went on to, I came to Rutgers for personal reasons. And, if you really look at my life, the things that I really enjoyed, for example, I went to Beijing to do research at the Institute of Psychology that they had there, we were looking at creativity as this dimension of intelligence. When I came over to Rutgers, I had a professor, a female professor in research methods, and she said, "You're going to work here," and it was within this department. And she said, "And you're going to, go to Penn, and you're going to be involved in this program." And I was like, "Okay." She said, "Because you have a mind for this." I never thought I had a mind for it. I mean, again, I wanted to change the world, social justice. So I actually followed her direction, and and that's kind of how I'm here today. But again, I succumbed to everything that young Black women succumbed to at that time. Every pressure that was there, I succumbed to. I never thought I believed the stereotypes. I didn't have anybody that reflected that. Backstory, I grew up in Detroit. I went to Detroit Public Schools. So that was my history. And the gender bias coupled with the racial bias, it just didn't seem like the place for me. So as a woman in STEM, I say, so how do you overcome these types of things? I don't think it's ever an oppressed people, or that's a harsh word. It's never my duty to change the naysayer. But there's things that we can do to kind of make sure that we are successful. Diversity, access, equity, and inclusion, always, they remain issues, but there's things that we can do. And hopefully you remember some of these things that you can do to kind of help you in the process. I always say you turn those moments of pain or people not feeling as good, turn that into passion and into progress. Sometimes it's that thing that motivates you to kind of keep pushing forward. The second thing, the power of a good support group. So I've also been reading a lot lately about the civil rights movement because that's one of the things that I'm interested in. And, all these people that, they were kind of friends. They were all hanging out together. So Mary Bacall Bethune was hanging out with Ida B. Wells. And what it does is that support system, those people, it helps you to encourage you to keep moving forward, and it helps you to to maybe have ideas and you can share them. But I think it's always important to have a good support group that surrounds yourself around people who make you accountable. Of course, remember, it's not only your right to be here, but it's your duty to be here. I will also say that no one can replace your vantage point, your gifts. This country cannot solve its problems by using only the talents of half of its population. So I think that, knowing that, everybody's seen Hidden Figures, right? And it was very, inspiring. But, it was inspiring because you see the young ladies who are pursuing careers in STEM, behind everyone else. But what was so important to me is that they need, you have to be there, and it's hard to be in a tough situation. But there's a moment that someone will say, "Wait, I need you." Because you are needed, because you are part of the population, so you are needed in the population. And the last thing I would say about that is, get comfortable being uncomfortable. So, and I'm going to tie this all and end it all with some of the things that I'm doing now. Um, Ms. West read my bio. I do work at Rowan University School of Osteopathic Medicine in gerontology and geriatrics. I was able to take my background in stats, statistics, demography, biology, and public health to answer some questions about aging in our society. So I do manage a panel. So when it started out 10 years ago, it was a panel of 5,688 older adults here in New Jersey. Actually, New Jersey is a very interesting state because you have a lot of different types of corners of New Jersey and characteristics of people, and the demography is diverse. So we go back to these people and we ask them questions. We're at time 6 now. We ask them questions about physical health, health history, their functional abilities, their diets, their neighborhoods. We also are able to kind of, with technology today, because we're working with a geographer at Rowan University, and actually I sat in a couple of his classes. We're able to observe the geospatial, where people live, and use an objective tool to be able to look at neighborhoods, and hopefully we ask questions about their work-life experience, their social life, their depression, their emotional health, all trying to learn about them and what leads to successful aging. So this is me and my passion for trying to make things better, to inform change, to be this maker, a difference. This is how I do it. All along, I could have just been here and lived here and been comfortable in here, but this is how I do it. So an example, a recent example of some of the research, specific research, is because we've been doing this for over 10 years. We had data points before Hurricane Sandy. And because we had the data points before Hurricane Sandy, we had we had markers, we knew how people, just important questions about them. And so we were able to follow up with questions after Hurricane Sandy and look at how something like a hurricane or a traumatic event affects older people. So we found that, and we're looking at PTSD that was reported, that lower income, more depressive symptoms, lower subjective health, lower functional ability, and experience of pain, and less social support 6 years before the storm predicted PTSD after the storm. So that's it. I actually thought about presenting that whole but I thought you guys would be kind of bored with that. But again, it's an application of the mathematics, the stats, that I'm able to give back to the community, and it is my duty to. It's my duty to advocate. So once we have this information and we disseminate it, to advocate for those older patients, those who are low in income, those who don't have the social support, and hopefully have better outcomes. So that's a little bit about me and my journey. Did I do okay? Did I answer all the questions that you? So if anybody, I think I was told that I can answer questions. If anybody has any questions about, I had some, okay, go ahead.
Do you have a mentor as you grew up or went to college or even in your professional life?
Yeah, I had one in business. Business and politics. Actually, when I was younger, the mayor at the time was my mentor, because again, that was what it's kind of funny, but that was what that's what I thought that I was going to do and to make change. Once I got to Rutgers, Jane Miller, she's still at Rutgers. She graduated from the University of Pennsylvania. She's the one who said, "This is what you're gonna do, and this is where you're gonna work." And I was like, because you have the mind for that. I had no idea what a mind for that was. I don't even know if I still do. I just know, like, if you get me into a classroom, I mean, even at University of Pennsylvania, when we took a research methods class, I was the one that, kind of led the study. And it was like fun for me, right? It was like, whoo, this is fun. I'm not even working. But again, I did not recognize that. And it's very good. And as administrators, and to be able to recognize in people and let them know, hey, you have a knack for this. I mean, you can really do this. And I think that's really important, to have people along the way to do that. Any other questions? Sure. Happier. Well, we don't study happy, but I would say that social support is very important, and community is very important. I think, and also moving, always staying active. Like that's, one of the doctors that I work with, she says, if you can't exercise anymore, if you can move your finger, move your finger. Like, just always keep moving is kind of what I feel that we've learned a lot about, is, always keep moving. But I'm really interested, and it's so funny how things have changed in 10 years. So when we first started, I think this is between time 1 and 2. So I was there, and I left, and I came back. But we became interested in supermarkets and people's access to food. Now, back then, they didn't have the geospatial things that they can do now, where you can just put it on a computer and know where all your supermarkets did. So I had this bright idea. In New Jersey, it's the only state that regulates milk the way it does, I believe. So everywhere there's milk being distributed, they keep track of it. So what we did, and this is fun data stuff, is that we actually got the list, and we coded every one of those places to look at food deserts. Now you can kind of just do it, but things change so swiftly in it. But yeah, to answer your question, it's your social support, and it's being able to move and to get moving. Any other questions? Sure.
Did growing up, not seeing mentors or teachers that represented ethnicity ever discourage you from pursuing STEM?
It was just never an idea. It was never a thought. It's like, if you're someplace and you never see planes, you never know you can fly. So I just never thought it was a choice. I mean, I did those programs because what they do, especially in inner cities, is they do these programs to try to encourage students into science and things. So they either do it for women or they do it for people of color. And so Black women are kind of in the middle, and it's a very kind of specific. Everybody has heard this conversation about intersectionality. So intersectionality is this idea that we all have these different social identities. So you have ththese programs that were really designed to get me, but I kind of fell through the cracks because it was women meant mostly white women, and Black mostly meant male. So I think it's important, administrators and of the university and teachers, and to make sure that there's that is represented, and that the women who are there are actually happy, and that there's an environment for them to thrive as well, because if they thrive, then the students will thrive as well. I heard it was another, yes. Setback. Oh, which one do I want to talk about? Setbacks. So, one major setback was I was a student at University of Pennsylvania when I got divorced. I was married, and so that's a personal setback. But I think the important thing that we all should do is just kind of let people know of your journey. And again, I was the strong woman, and I didn't tell anybody what was happening in my life. So I talked to the professor like years later. He was going through divorce. So he was like, I didn't even know you were going through that. I said, well, I kind of told you I had to go to court. But he was like, I just didn't realize it. But I think, yes, you're going to always have personal setbacks. There's going to be times where demography 101 was very difficult for me. For some reason, it wasn't the math part, it was the other part of that. So I think, yes, there's always setbacks. I think, again, going back to how we overcome, always having people that around you that hold you accountable, that encourage you, never being afraid to ask for help. I think that's one of the things, again, being a Black woman, we always taught that we're not supposed, and I think women do it generally, we're never taught that we can ask for help. And that's one of the things I even tell my children. I say, my daughter who's at Columbia, I say, did you go and ask for help? Have you talked to your professor? Did you, I have a junior and a sophomore. Whenever I do trips at universities, one of the places I say to go to is, let's look at the support that they have at the school. Where is their internship office? Where's their office that teaches you how to write a resume? Where's the office that teaches you, that shows you where you can study abroad? Where is that office that helps you edit a paper? Those things are important, and they're there for you. So I think that, we all have setbacks, personal, in our education, but to be, being honest about it and asking for help is always the best way to go at it. Always. Yes?
How can we, you said that when you were growing up, STEM, it wasn't really, you didn't even think of it as an opportunity for you, just didn't really consider it. How can we solve that problem with young people of color, women of color? How can we solve that problem so that they know that STEM is an opportunity for them?
Well, I think thank you for that question, that's a good question. I think because the idea of STEM is very, it's that nerd in the corner who does that, right? But I was kind of a nerd. So I think that when you make it more accessible to people, so for example, right now what makes me excited about STEM, or even listening to those youth talk about STEM, and one of the things I was able to pull out of them was that you want to do something to help your community. So, I was trying to do this drawing in of activism and how it's your duty and your calling to work within your talent. So I think that if we use a different language when we're talking about STEM, like listening to, yes, you want to help your community by making it safer. You want to help your community by making it more efficient. Some people, I think that resonates differently other than I'm just going to do math all day, because that's not what you do anyway. I think, especially women, we are we are problem solvers, right? That's what we do. We solve problems, and that is what STEM is. It is solving problems, right? You know, it's seeing something that exists, you know, and we multitask and we use the laws of communication, the laws of society, of culture to solve problems. Well, that's the same thing that happens in STEM, is that, you know, when you're learning math, when you're learning chemistry, especially when it's kind of daunting at the most elementary levels, it can be kind of like you're just learning the laws, but you're really kind of learning the tools. But you're doing that so that you have that as a basis to solve greater problems. So yes, it can kind of be. I mean, but it was fun for me. But it can be. But you know, people want to feel important and that they're solving. You know, like for some reason, I did think I was just on. These children were asking me questions, and I was like it's time for me to ask you questions. But just, you know, it was really nice for me to kind of recognize that, you know, this child wanted to solve a problem in their community that they knew of. They knew, because it was in Willingboro, they knew the Centerton Bridge that was shut down, and that they couldn't drive through that way, and that they wanted to make a change. She's like, yes, make that change. You could do that, just using the laws of engineering, all the things that you learn, the math and science, and you put together, and you will solve problems. So again, I think just making it more accessible, making it more, you know, you're the problem solvers, not you're the. I mean, engineer. What is engineering? Can anybody define engineering? I mean, like, can anybody define it? I mean, well, you know, it's about you. Can you define it? Oh, that made it better. that right. But when you can say that to a child and they still won't. You're still using the S word, science. What is that?
The results of science, like instead of just saying, you know, learn mathematics, tell them the results of mathematics, what the power of mathematics, what it can do for your society and your community.
Right, you're solving problems of your community. I think that's, you're not just engineering, you're not just doing science, you're learning about, you know, concepts and being able to apply it to to make it a better world, a change, a difference. And that's powerful. Like, gosh, I wish I knew that. Darn it. I wish I knew that. But, you know, hopefully at least a couple of those kids in the classroom will look at it that way. And maybe the young people looked at it that way. Any other questions? Well, thank you for your time and your questions.